The galaxy was old. Stars had burned bright and dim for countless ages, and civilizations had risen and fallen across its wide expanse. Many species had climbed from stone and fire to steel and light. They built fleets, cities among the stars, and vast empires that stretched across constellations. But among the endless voices of the galaxy, one voice was missing, a voice that had once been strong, bold, and unforgettable. That voice was humanity. Long ago, humans were known across the galaxy. Their explorers traveled far beyond the borders of any other race. Their scientists cracked mysteries that others thought unsolvable. Their soldiers, though few in number compared to some vast alien armies, fought with courage and cleverness that made enemies tremble. To friends they were loyal, to rivals they were unpredictable, and to those who threatened them they were dangerous beyond measure. Yet one day, without warning, the humans were gone. Their fleets vanished from the space lanes. Their colonies went silent. The great planet Earth, which many alien historians called the cradle of humanity, disappeared from the maps. At first, the galaxy believed it was only a pause. Perhaps Earth was facing an inner struggle, a crisis or a war. Perhaps humanity would return after a century, stronger than before. But centuries passed. Then more centuries followed. Silence grew where humanity's voice had once been. Generations of alien children grew up hearing stories of humans as legends rather than facts. Some species said the humans destroyed themselves with their own power. Others whispered that they had gone to a higher plane of existence. A few joked that humanity had grown tired of the galaxy and simply walked away, but no one really knew. Humanity had become a mystery. On a quiet archive world called Rhynar, far from the busy trade routes, a young alien named Kale searched through forgotten records. Kyle belonged to the Veari, a slim, tall species with shimmering skin that changed color with their emotions. Most Veari preferred art, poetry, and music, but Kale's heart belonged to history. He loved old records, dusty data crystals, and forgotten stories that others ignored. On this day, Kyle sat in the ruins of a half-buried library. The building had once belonged to the Terran, an empire long gone, and within it lay centuries of records, some broken, some incomplete, but all precious to him. With care, Kale connected an old crystal to his portable reader. Lines of text, broken and faded, appeared in alien script. As Kale translated, his heart began to race. The record spoke of humans. It was not just a myth. The Terran Empire had kept reports of meetings with human envoys. They described humans as clever, adaptive, and bold. The report mentioned a treaty signed with the people of Earth. But the date was strange. It was nearly 1,000 years old. The final note was chilling. No further contact. Earth silent. Kale's hands shook. He leaned back, his skin glowing a deep blue, the color of excitement. He whispered to himself, "So it is true." They lived. They were real. For days, Kyle searched deeper. Piece by piece, he uncovered fragments, records of human ships defending weaker worlds against pirates. Reports of human traders exchanging ideas, not just goods. Notes from alien scholars praising human inventions that had changed medicine and travel. Again and again, one word appeared beside the name of humanity: unpredictable. The more Kale read, the more questions grew in his mind. Why had humans disappeared? Why had no one gone searching for them? Or perhaps someone had, but never returned. The galaxy around Kale had changed much since those days. The Galactic Council, made up of dozens of species, now ruled trade and law. Borders between empires were set, and power was balanced carefully. Many young species were rising, building fleets and colonies of their own. But in all their councils and all their debates, the name of humanity was almost never spoken. Kale found this silence strange. If humans had once been so important, why were they forgotten? It was as if the galaxy had decided to erase their memory. But Kale's heart told him the truth. The silence was not the end of the story. One evening, as the twin suns of Rhynar set behind the horizon, Kale looked out from the ruins and thought about the humans. He imagined their blue planet, turning slowly under a golden sun. He imagined their ships, sleek and fast, darting between stars. He imagined their explorers' eyes burning with curiosity, never satisfied with standing still. In his mind, he heard a question that would not leave him. What happened to Earth? Kale was not alone in his curiosity. Across the galaxy, in hidden corners, a few others studied old records. Scholars, smugglers, and even spies whispered about traces of human technology appearing on the black market. Ships of unknown design had been spotted at the edge of the void. Signals, strange mathematical signals, were sometimes detected but quickly dismissed. Each clue was like a spark, too small to light a fire, but enough to keep the rumor alive. To most of the galaxy, these were nothing but tales for children. But to Kale they were proof. Humanity was not destroyed. Humanity was hidden. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, when older races argued about taxes or borders, Kale's voice was never heard. He was just a young historian from a quiet world, yet deep in his heart he believed he was standing at the edge of a great discovery. One day he told his mentor, an elder historian named Veylan, about his findings. The elder listened quietly, his silver skin calm and steady. When Kyle finished, Veylan gave him a long look. "Be careful," the elder warned. "The galaxy does not speak of humans because it fears them. If they return, the balance of power will break, and broken balances often lead to war." Kyle felt a chill. But the warning did not kill his curiosity. It only made it stronger. In the centuries since humanity's silence, alien empires had grown comfortable. They had divided the galaxy, claimed its resources, and shaped its rules. If humans returned now after so long, they would not be returning to the same galaxy they had left. They would be returning to one that had forgotten them, or tried to. Kyle knew this truth. When the silence ended, nothing would remain the same, and far away, in the deep shadows of space, signals were stirring. Machines slept no longer. A cradle long forgotten was awakening. The galaxy was about to remember the voice it had tried to forget. The galaxy lived in routine. Fleets patrolled their borders. Merchants moved between safe trade routes. Councils argued about laws and taxes. Everything seemed steady, predictable, and controlled. But in the vast silence of deep space, something new began to stir. Something that broke the calm balance. It started as a whisper, a signal so faint that most scanners ignored it. A long wave of numbers, precise and clear, moving in patterns no natural star could make. It repeated every few hours, strong enough to reach across light years, but strange enough to confuse those who received it. At first, miners thought it was interference. Then smugglers thought it was a trick. But when scholars looked closer, their eyes widened. The signal was human. On the quiet world of Rhinar, Kale sat in his study when the news reached him. A colleague sent him a copy of the strange transmission. Kale's hands shook as he opened the file. The sound was simple, just tones rising and falling in patterns. But as Kale translated, the truth appeared. It was mathematics, a greeting, written in universal numbers using sequences humans had once shared with other species long ago. The pattern was elegant, purposeful, and unmistakably human. Kyle leaned back, his skin glowing bright silver with shock. His heart raced. For years he had searched ancient archives, reading only fragments of the past, and now proof was before him. The silence was ending. The Galactic Council reacted quickly. The signal caused unrest in every chamber. Ambassadors argued late into the night. Some called it a ghost, a trick from pirates. Others warned it was dangerous. If humanity was alive, then they might return with power beyond imagination. A few hopeful voices spoke of friendship, of renewal, of lost allies found again, but fear outweighed hope. Humanity was unpredictable, said one ambassador with a heavy voice. If they survived in silence, then they must be hiding strength. We must be ready. Across the galaxy, whispers spread in markets, spaceports, and academies. Children asked their parents about humans. Soldiers trained harder. Spies rushed to gather old reports. An old myth was alive again, and no one knew what it meant. Kale followed every update. He listened to the signal night after night, letting the tones fill his study. Each time his heart told him the same thing. Humanity was not gone. They were waiting. Soon more reports appeared. An exploration fleet from the Zalari Empire entered the Orion Arm, near where the signals were strongest. They expected to find only empty space. Instead, they found a station, ancient, silent, but alive. The station was built of strange metal, smooth and shining, with markings that no alien language could explain. When the explorers approached, the station woke. Lights glowed. Shields rose. Automated drones launched from hidden bays. In moments, the explorers were trapped. The drones did not destroy them. Instead, they forced the explorers to retreat. One Zalari ship was disabled but not destroyed. Its crew was allowed to flee. carrying a message burned into their ship's hull by a beam of light. The message was short, written in universal code. Earth remembers. The galaxy trembled. Kale read the reports with awe. This was no myth. Humanity had left behind guardians, outposts that still waited even after centuries of silence. These stations were not broken relics. They were alive, intelligent, and loyal to their makers. Other fleets tried to approach. Some were merchants seeking fortune. Some were soldiers testing the strength of these defenses. None succeeded. The human machines outsmarted every attempt. They moved with speed and accuracy that seemed impossible, and yet they showed restraint. Not once did they kill. Not once did they cross the line into cruelty. This frightened the Council even more. Power with control was far more dangerous than power without it. Kale's name began to appear in messages among scholars. He had studied human history longer than most, and his research suddenly became valuable. Invitations arrived from distant academies. Councils requested his advice. He was no longer just a young historian in the ruins of Rhynar. He was becoming a voice in a rising storm. When he stood before the council for the first time, Kale felt both awe and fear. The chamber was vast, filled with ambassadors from 100 species. His slim figure seemed small among towering warriors and heavy scholars. But when he spoke, the chamber grew quiet. Humanity has not been destroyed, Kale said. His voice was calm, but his glowing skin revealed his excitement. They planned this silence. They left stations, guardians, and messages. They are not returning as the same people we once knew. They are returning as something greater. Some listened. Others dismissed him as a dreamer. But no one could ignore the truth of the signals. Meanwhile, deep in the Orion Arm, more outposts awoke. Automated stations lit up across forgotten star systems. Each one sent signals in harmony, forming a network of communication. Together, the signals spread across the galaxy like ripples in water. Everywhere, species stopped and listened. Farmers paused their work. Traders silenced their markets. Soldiers halted in their training grounds. Children looked up at the sky. And from every corner, the same whisper reached them. Earth remembers. Kale's nights became restless. He dreamed of Earth, though he had never seen it. He imagined oceans, mountains, forests, and cities glowing with lights. He imagined humans walking once more under alien suns, their eyes filled with the same curiosity that had carried them so far. Yet with his dreams came fear. If humans returned, would they come as friends or rulers? Would they offer peace or demand control? No one could answer. Humanity's past was filled with both kindness and danger. They defended the weak, yet they never allowed themselves to be controlled. They shared knowledge, yet they kept secrets close. The galaxy remembered their courage. It also remembered their unpredictability. Tensions grew. Some empires prepared fleets, building weapons and training soldiers. If humans return, their leaders said, we must be ready. Others tried to form secret alliances, hoping to be the first to reach Earth, to claim friendship or advantage. But no matter what they planned, the truth was clear. Humanity had the upper hand. Their machines were centuries ahead. Their silence had not been wasted. Kale knew the galaxy was standing on the edge of a new age. Every whisper, every signal, every glowing station was a step closer to the moment when the humans themselves would appear. One evening, Kale returned to the ruins of the old library on Rhynar. He looked at the stars above, glowing bright against the dark sky. The signals hummed softly through his receiver, steady and calm. The silence is ending, he whispered, and the galaxy is not ready. Far away, in the void where no alien dared to travel, massive shapes stirred. Fleets long hidden in shadows prepared for movement. Engines older than empires warmed for the first time in centuries. Across the stars, humanity was awakening. The first echoes had been heard, and soon the voice of Earth itself would follow. The galaxy had not known fear like this in many centuries. The signals from the Orion Arm had spread everywhere. The human outposts had awakened, and their machines had proven beyond doubt that they were strong, clever, and patient. Yet the most important question remained unanswered. Where were the humans themselves? That answer arrived one quiet morning in the middle of a calm trade season. The sky above the border world of Relos shimmered. At first, people thought it was a storm in hyperspace. Then the shimmer grew brighter, stretching across the stars. The air around the planet's orbit trembled. Space itself seemed to bend. And then the fleet appeared. Thousands of ships poured out of the rift, each one moving in perfect formation. They were not like the ships of the Galactic Council or any known empire. These vessels were alive with light, their surfaces flowing like rivers of metal, their engines glowing with steady power. Some were small and fast, shaped like arrows. Others were massive, like floating cities with towers and rings that rotated slowly. The sight was overwhelming. For centuries, the galaxy had grown used to the idea that humans were gone. Now they returned, not as scattered survivors, but as a fleet that looked unstoppable. On Rhynar, Kyle received the news at once. He rushed to the communication hall where 100 scholars and leaders had gathered. The broadcast filled the chamber, images of the fleet arriving, their shadows falling across the planet Raylos. The crowd was silent. Kale's heart beat so fast he thought it might burst. His skin glowed deep silver mixed with pale blue, a color of both awe and fear. "They are here," he whispered. "The humans are here." The council called an emergency meeting. Every ambassador, every general, and every leader gathered in the vast chamber. The voices rose in panic. "They have returned with weapons we cannot measure," shouted one ambassador. "They mean to take back what they lost," warned another. "They defended their stations without killing," said a calmer voice. "Perhaps they come in peace." But peace was hard to imagine when faced with such overwhelming power. Meanwhile, the human fleet made no sudden moves. They held their formation in orbit above Raylos, silent but steady. Then, without warning, a single message was sent out across every frequency, translated into every language known to the galaxy. It was short. "We are the people of Earth. We have returned. No threats. No demands." Just a simple declaration. Across the galaxy, silence followed. On distant colonies, children asked their parents what it meant. On military ships, commanders waited for orders, their hands tight on the controls. In hidden corners, smugglers whispered about profit or ruin. Everyone knew history was being written at that very moment. On Raylos, the people looked up at the sky and saw human ships blotting out the stars. Some were afraid. Others felt hope. A few even cheered, as if an old protector had come back. Kale could not stay silent. He spoke again before the council. "They do not speak like conquerors," he said. "Their first words are not threats. They say only who they are. Humanity has not come to beg or to hide. They have come to stand, and we must decide how to answer." But fear ruled many voices in the chamber. Old stories of human unpredictability filled their minds. Some demanded the fleet be challenged. Others warned that a single mistake could destroy them all. The council could not agree. Back above Raylos, the human fleet began to move. Not to attack, but to reveal. Their largest ship, a colossal vessel shaped like a crescent moon, opened its bays. From within, smaller ships emerged, glowing with soft white light. They carried no weapons, at least none that could be seen. Instead, they descended gently to the surface of Raylos. When they landed, the hatches opened, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy saw humans step onto alien soil. The sight spread across every broadcast in the galaxy. The humans looked almost the same as the old records described. Two-legged, two-armed, eyes bright with sharp intelligence. But there were differences. Their clothing shimmered with strange energy, almost like armor, yet graceful as cloth. Their movements were precise, calm, and steady. Their eyes held a depth that was unsettling, as if they had seen things no one else could imagine. The leader among them stepped forward. His voice was strong, yet not harsh. "People of the galaxy," he said, "we are the children of Earth. We do not come to rule nor to destroy. We return to the stars as our right, and we seek balance. We have been silent, but silence is not death. We lived, we grew, and now we come home." Those words shook the galaxy. Some felt relief. Others trembled even more. For if humanity had spent centuries growing stronger, what heights had they reached? Kale watched the speech on the screen, his skin glowing bright gold, the color of wonder. He felt as though he were seeing destiny unfold before him, but not everyone shared his hope. In secret, certain empires whispered among themselves. "If humans claim balance," one general said, "they mean control. They hide their true power," another added. "If we wait too long, it will be too late." A shadow of conspiracy began to form. While the council argued and while Kale dreamed of peace, others prepared for conflict. Meanwhile, humanity began to show what they had built in their long silence. Their ships were not just machines of war. They were homes, laboratories, and gardens. They carried knowledge of medicine that healed wounds in moments. They carried machines that could turn barren rock into fertile ground. They showed technology that bent light, energy, and even gravity itself with ease. Everywhere they went, they brought gifts. And yet with every gift came fear. For who could resist people who could heal the sick, feed the hungry, and defend with unstoppable strength? On Renar, Kale spent long nights writing reports. His notes spoke of a truth he could not ignore. Humanity was not returning as one power among many. They were returning as a force the galaxy would have to follow or resist. He wondered what path they would choose. Would they lead with kindness or with command? Would the galaxy join them or fight them? One night, Kale dreamed again. He saw Earth itself, glowing blue and green under a bright sun. He saw fleets rising from its skies, carrying humans to the stars once more. He saw the galaxy bending around them, like rivers bending to the sea. When he woke, he whispered the words that echoed in his mind. The cradle has returned to claim its children. The human fleet remained above Relos, calm and steady. Their leader's words continued to echo across the stars. We are the people of Earth. We have returned. And in the hearts of every race, one truth grew stronger. The balance of the galaxy had been shattered. Humanity had not come to beg for a place. They had come to take their place by right. The silence was truly over. The galaxy had lived with fragile peace for many generations. Each empire held its borders, and the Galactic Council worked as a bridge between rivals. Trade moved across star lanes. Soldiers trained but rarely fought, and most people believed the balance would last forever. But that balance was broken the moment humanity returned. Above the world of Relos, the human fleet remained steady. They did not attack. They did not demand. They only spoke. Their message carried across every frequency. We are the people of Earth. We have returned. For some, these words were a beacon of hope. For others, they were a warning of danger. Fear spread faster than any starship. In the council chambers, the debates grew louder. One ambassador struck the table with a heavy fist. They claim peace, but look at their ships. They are weapons in themselves. If humanity wished for balance, they would have returned with fewer fleets, not thousands of them. Another ambassador, calmer but firm, replied, "You fear their strength because you remember their past. But remember also their kindness. Old records tell of humans protecting weaker worlds. They are dangerous, yes, but not without reason." The chamber divided. Half wanted to welcome humanity cautiously, while the other half wanted to prepare for war. The longer they argued, the more the galaxy itself grew restless. Kale watched the debates from his seat as a historian invited for counsel. His skin glowed pale blue, the color of quiet worry. He understood both sides. Humanity had returned with gifts, with technology that could heal and build. But they had also returned with fleets so strong that no empire could match them. "Fear will only lead us to war," Kale said softly, though few listened. "If we strike first, we will only awaken the storm." Meanwhile, outside the council's reach, secret meetings formed. In shadowed chambers, generals and rulers gathered. These were not people who trusted words, they trusted weapons. "If humans are allowed to settle," one general whispered, "they will soon guide the council itself. Their voice will outweigh ours. Our empires will fall into their shadow." Another ruler, eyes narrowed, replied, "Then we must test them before that happens. We must remind them that the galaxy is not theirs to command." Thus, a secret coalition was born. Several empires, once rivals, joined hands in silence. They agreed to launch strikes against human outposts, not to destroy humanity, but to test its strength and limits. The first attack came at the edge of the Terran belt, where one of the newly awakened human stations glowed with white light. A fleet of warships entered the system, their engines burning bright. They opened fire without warning, their beams slicing through the void. But the station was ready. The white light shifted into a shield of energy, bending the beams aside. Drones swarmed out like a storm of silver birds, each moving with deadly precision. Within minutes, the attacking fleet was surrounded. The humans could have destroyed them. But instead, they disabled engines, shut down weapons, and left the ships drifting helplessly. Then a single message was burned into their systems. We seek no war. Do not test us again. The message spread across the galaxy, louder than any victory. Humanity's strength was undeniable, but so was their restraint. They fought like masters of war, but refused to kill needlessly. To some, this proved their honor. To others, it only deepened the fear, because power controlled was more frightening than power unleashed. On Rhynar, Kyle received the reports. His hands trembled as he read. His skin glowed golden with awe. They are not conquerors, he whispered. They are something more. They have grown beyond simple war. But his mentor, Elder Valen, shook his head. Restraint today does not mean restraint tomorrow. The galaxy will not trust them. Old wounds and old fears are not easily healed. Kale lowered his eyes, but he could not silence the hope in his heart. More skirmishes followed. Small coalitions attacked border outposts. Testing, always testing. Each time, the result was the same. Human machines moved faster, struck harder, and ended battles before they could grow. Not once did they destroy without cause. Not once did they lose. The galaxy began to whisper a new name for them. The Silent Storm. Human envoys traveled between worlds, offering words of peace. They brought medicine that cured sickness in hours. They showed machines that could grow food on barren soil. They shared energy sources that burned clean and endless. To the common people of many worlds, the humans were saviors. Farmers, traders, and healers welcomed them gladly. But to the rulers, the picture was darker. If humans gave such gifts freely, then what did they hold back? If they shared this much, what powers did they keep hidden? Kale found himself torn between two truths. When he studied humans on the screens, he saw their calm faces, their steady eyes, their quiet voices. They were not arrogant. They did not boast. They spoke simply, and their words carried weight. But he also knew history. He knew the old records that said humans could be unpredictable, shifting from kindness to fury in moments. He knew their creativity could be both wonder and danger, and so he wrote in his journal, "Humanity has returned not as conquerors, not as servants, but as judges. The galaxy will either join them or fall against them. There is no middle path." The council grew desperate. Debates turned to shouting. Some begged humanity to join the council as equals. Others demanded the humans disband their fleets, but the humans gave the same reply every time. "We do not seek to rule. We will walk with you, but never behind you." These words angered some and inspired others. The fragile unity of the council began to crack. Allies turned suspicious of one another. Old rivals prepared weapons again. The galaxy's balance was no longer steady. It was shattering. One night, Kale dreamed again. He saw ships burning across the stars. He saw humans standing calm amid the flames. He saw the galaxy trembling before them, torn between fear and hope. When he awoke, his skin glowed dark purple, the color of deep worry. He knew what was coming. The council would break. Empires would rise against each other. And in the middle of it all, humanity would stand unshaken. In the shadows of secret chambers, the coalition of empires grew bolder. They prepared not just tests, but full campaigns. They believed that if they struck together with their strongest fleets, they could force humanity to retreat, or at least reveal their true limits. But what they did not know was that humanity had no limits left to reveal. Above Relos, the fleet remained calm as always. Their ships shone in silence, their message unchanged. Yet behind that silence lay strength so vast that no one could yet imagine. The balance of the galaxy had shattered. The storm was coming, and the humans, patient and watchful, were ready. The galaxy had never been so uncertain. Centuries of calm had ended, replaced by a tension that stretched from the brightest stars to the darkest voids. Human fleets held their position above key worlds, but their presence alone was enough to make rulers rethink strategies, treaties, and alliances. For ordinary people, the return of humanity was like waking from a dream. Across colonies, markets, farms, and cities, humans were no longer myths. They were real, alive, and walking among the stars. On Rhynar, Kale sat in his study, the air thick with anticipation. His journal lay open, filled with observations and worries. Every message from the outer fleets made his heart race. Humans had shown restraint, wisdom, and incredible power, yet the galaxy's fear had not faded. He thought of the council debates, the secret coalitions, and the small battles that tested humanity's defenses. The galaxy had grown restless under the weight of the unknown. The humans were patient, but their patience was not endless. Kale knew that balance alone would not hold the galaxy together much longer. Something had to change. Then the humans acted. In the largest assembly ever held by the Galactic Council, representatives of nearly every major empire gathered. The chamber was immense, stretching hundreds of meters into the sky, lined with lights and banners from countless species. The tension was palpable. Some leaders held their weapons close. Others whispered frantic instructions to spies and aides, and then the humans arrived. They did not march in with fleets, nor did they demand seats at the council. They entered quietly, their steps measured, their posture calm. Yet their presence alone commanded attention. For the first time in centuries, humans spoke to the galaxy not as a rumor, not as a story, but as equals, yet with an authority that could not be ignored. The leader, tall and composed, stepped forward. His eyes scanned the assembly, taking in every gesture, every whisper, every doubt. "People of the galaxy," he began, his voice steady and clear. "For centuries we have been silent. We withdrew not out of fear, but to grow, to learn, to prepare. Now we return, not to rule, not to conquer, but to walk among you once more. We come as partners, allies, and protectors of a galaxy that is greater than any one of us." The chamber was silent. Even those who had prepared for war felt their words caught in their throats. Humans did not threaten. They did not boast. Yet there was a power in their calmness that made every leader pause and reconsider. Kale's skin glowed deep blue as he watched. He felt awe mixed with hope. After decades of searching ancient records and studying humanity's past, he realized the truth. Humans had returned not to dominate, but to guide. They had learned the lessons of restraint, the value of cooperation, and the strength of unity. Across the galaxy, humans began to show what that meant in practice. On dozens of border worlds, they deployed fleets not to attack but to rebuild. They repaired damaged cities, restored failing ecosystems, and shared knowledge that healed sicknesses and renewed barren lands. Machines that once seemed impossible now worked with simplicity and precision. Crops flourished where soil had long been empty. Energy flowed clean and abundant. Communication networks connected isolated planets, and everywhere humans went, fear slowly turned into awe, and then into trust. Yet there were those who resisted. Some empires refused to acknowledge human leadership. Secret coalitions plotted, believing that if they struck first they could challenge the new order. Skirmishes still erupted at the edges of the galaxy, but each time humans responded with precision, avoiding destruction while demonstrating their strength. It became clear, humanity did not fight for glory. They fought to protect the galaxy, and in doing so, they gained more than allies. They earned respect. Kale traveled to several worlds as part of the Council's observation team. He saw humans standing side by side with alien leaders, exchanging ideas, helping with construction, and even learning from other cultures. They were curious, respectful, and disciplined. They shared their knowledge freely, but never imposed it. On one planet, he watched a human scientist demonstrate a water purification system to an alien village. Children ran through the clean streams, laughing while elders nodded in wonder. No one demanded obedience, yet every observer could feel the quiet authority of the humans. "This is what power should look like," Kyle wrote in his journal. "Not force, but wisdom. Not fear, but guidance. Humanity has returned not to rule, but to inspire." The Galactic Council, after weeks of discussion, reached a historic decision. They invited humans to join as advisors and partners in shaping the galaxy's future. No single empire had control. No vote could outweigh the voice of cooperation. Humanity accepted not to dominate, but to ensure fairness, peace, and progress. Kale watched as humans spoke to each empire individually, resolving disputes, offering solutions, and teaching strategies that emphasized cooperation rather than conquest. Slowly, the galaxy began to see what humans had known all along. Strength is not measured in fleets or weapons, but in the courage to unite, the wisdom to restrain, and the patience to guide. Meanwhile, old rivalries began to fade. Some empires that had resisted humans most fiercely found themselves inspired by their restraint and generosity. Alliances shifted from fear-based power struggles to cooperation-based partnerships. Trade flourished. Research accelerated. Knowledge was shared openly. Even former skeptics whispered to each other. Perhaps the myths were true. Humanity has returned stronger than we imagined. On Rhinar, Kale reflected on everything he had witnessed. From ancient archives to the first human signals, from secret fleets to council debates, he saw the galaxy's transformation unfold. The humans had not arrived with destruction or command. They had arrived with patience, wisdom, and vision. He wrote in his journal, "The silence has ended." Humanity has returned not as conquerors but as teachers, protectors, and guides. The galaxy will never forget this moment. And far away on the blue planet called Earth, humans prepared for a new chapter. Fleets rested in orbit, cities bustled with life, and voices, once silent for centuries, spoke in harmony. Humanity had grown beyond its old limits, but it had not lost its heart. They were explorers, innovators, and guardians. The galaxy, which had once feared their unpredictability, now followed their example. Old enemies became collaborators. New alliances formed. Children of countless species learned from human stories and human deeds. In the final moments of Part 5, Kale stood under the twin suns of Rhinar. He watched the stars above, many of them shining brighter now because of the humans' return. He whispered a simple thought: the cradle has returned, and with it, the galaxy begins anew. For the first time in centuries, the stars did not feel lonely. Humanity had come back, and the galaxy was alive with hope, strength, and possibility. The silence was gone. The age of humans had begun.